Alright, so recently I've been going through the patron requests looking to get the new topic from our guy Buttery Crumpet. And he says, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Other than a Fate Stay Night dance off, right now I got nothing. And I told him that's fine. You should know by now that I'm Type Moon Mr. Make It Happen. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna do the official Fate Stay Night dance off competition. This can only go wrong. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna rally up all the main members from the cast, and I'm just gonna try to see who would be the ones that would more than likely be the winners based on their style and their presence in the story. In no particular order, we got Sasuke going first, the quintessential gate guardian. Would Sasuke be one of the people to bless us with the moves, or would he go down in shame? Well, we already know that Sasuke has a base level of athleticism because he's a swordsman. So by default, I feel like this puts him ahead of majority of people in terms of rhythm and being in your mode. The very nature of being a swordsman or just practicing in weaponry in general, it's like a dance in and of itself. At the same time, we do know that he's been stuck at that gate for a while, the entire series to be exact. So it's highly likely that his moves have gotten a little rusty. I gotta be honest, I do think that he has a chance, but if we caught him in a series where he wasn't stuck, say Grand Order, I feel like he would do a lot better. But if we're going by the Stay Night cast, I gotta put him somewhere in the middle. Next up, we have Atrum. This was the original master of Medea. So looking at Atrum, you know, he was a pretty lax guy every time that we saw him. Much of the time that he spent in the series was basking in his own accomplishments, so we hardly get to see him move around that much at all. I'm finding it really hard to believe that all of a sudden when he gets on the dance floor, that will be something to change. Not only that, but when Medea took him out of the game, he hardly even put up a fight. And if we're being real, somebody that has dance moves is at the very least gonna move an elbow, maybe a shoulder, do something, but he just sat there and died. So I can't say that he would do anything impressive on the floor. Gotta put him at the bottom. We got Ayako. So for Ayako, I think she is more of a light-spirited person. So out of all the people on the cast, especially ones that we see a lot more often than her, I do still think that she definitely wouldn't be opposed to showing off her moves, especially considering that she's used to being a person in the spotlight. Again, one of the lead members of the archery team, she knows what it's like to be at the forefront. Many people wouldn't even take that dive for the very sake of maybe they might be embarrassed or they don't want to make themselves the center of attention. She's used to that. I'm gonna put Ayako somewhere in the middle. We got Heracles. Now we all know that Heracles is easily one of the most nimble people on the cast, and ironically so, considering that he's also the largest. Have you seen his fight against Saber? This man can move probably better than everybody, if I'm being honest. If you especially go by how devoted he is to Ilya, and Ilya maybe places him in a situation where she says, hey Hurt, can you do this dance for me? Or hey Hurt, this dance is gonna put us in a really good position. You best believe that Hurt is gonna do that dance for her. I don't see him not obliging to Ilya's request. And I feel like that would be some really good exercise for him, because a lot of times Hurt gets bored. It reminds me a lot of when she made him run errands. So for Hurt, I'm gonna put him in the upper tier. Surprisingly, we got Medea. Again, another light-hearted person of the cast, which is mainly a perspective that you don't really get to see until Ataraxia. I do feel like Medea is someone that would warm up to a dancing situation. As a matter of fact, I can literally see Medea in her casual outfit summoning her golems and then them all dancing around her while she's the one busting some moves on the floor, being the main attraction. I definitely can see that happen. Not only that, but she's gotta keep the energy up, because remember, she's with Kazuki. She is Kazuki's main squeeze. So somebody's gotta bring the energy, and she in particular has to bring twice as much energy for the both of them, because Kazuki is not doing it. How do we tell you? Next up, we got the legendary Goldilocks, Gilgamesh. Now, if we were to base this off the way that Gil carries himself in the story, I gotta say that I don't see Gil dancing really at all. I gotta be honest. This man is much more likely to stand in the middle of the dance floor, the strobe lights, the disco balls just reflecting off of his armor with his arms folded, because that's normally what he does in his scenes. As a matter of fact, I would say that his signature move is just standing there and doing nothing. I mean, if that qualifies as a dance, maybe, but if we're talking about traditional dancing, this man is not moving a muscle, let me tell you. Even in the most dire of circumstances, the only two people that I could see making Gil even flinch in terms of dancing is Enkidu, who is not there in Stay Night, and if you've seen Carnival, of course, Saber Alter. The only two people. Otherwise, it's not happening. We're putting him at the bottom. Next, we have Ilya. And yes, we do love Ilya very much, even though if you get on her bad side, she will put you in the box. It's just a part of the way that things go. We're not mad about that. That's the way that Ilya is. She's just full of surprises. So when it comes to the dance floor, I gotta say Ilya has a much higher probability of being one of the people that takes it. She's just always so full of vigor in everything that she does. And if you are familiar with the Tiger Dojos especially, you know for a fact that Ilya would definitely get out on that dance floor and show everybody up. It's not even a discussion. At that point, it would really just be a matter of who she's going against. Next up, we got my guy Issei. So for Issei, we know that, you know, he's one of the people from Ryodo. He comes from a family of monks. And if we're basing this off of what a monk does and intertwining his character, I do believe that Issei is charismatic enough to hit the floor, but being that his later position in life is focused on becoming a monk, it kind of puts him in the same spot as Gilgamesh. You know, monks just sit there and they meditate and they're still all the time. So I don't really see that really changing for Issei, unless we say pre-monk Issei. Otherwise, he's definitely not gonna impress anybody just sitting there in the middle of the floor with his robes on. I'm sorry to say, and I know a lot of people are gonna be offended by that, and that's fine. It had to be somebody, but we still rock with Issei regardless. Gotta put him at the bottom. Next, we have Kirei, the one and only priest. Listen, man, we know that Kirei falls on that side of characters that is very unmoved by pretty much everything in the world that doesn't involve killing and pain. So if he were in a situation where he had to get on the floor, you would think that Kirei wouldn't be the person to do so. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if someone else's tragedy is on the other side of that dance floor, you can best believe that he will be there breaking it down. So I don't want to say that he's gonna beat people with flying colors, but I definitely got to put my guy in the middle, representing the church. The Pope would be proud. And honestly, if you ever been to certain churches, it can get like that. You know, it's only certain churches that do this. You will think that you're at an actual party. People are out here catching the Holy Ghost and passing out in the name of the Lord, and I feel like Kirei is one of those ones. Next up, we got Kiritsugu. This is a tough one. A lot like Kirei, I don't see Kiritsugu dancing in many circumstances. Not many at all. If there were a circumstance, it would have to be ones that involve his immediate family. If you've seen his interactions with Irisville and Ilya, maybe he goes to a father-daughter dance, maybe he wants to kick something with Irisville. I can see that. He would get on the floor and show what he's worth if he's not just standing there thinking about all the people that he would rather sacrifice instead. But if it's just him per se, I'm really doubting the idea of Kiritsugu doing any dancing whatsoever. I more so see him standing in the middle of the dance floor with his gun, and if anybody tries to make him dance, he will comfortably escort them off the premises. But he won't go too crazy. I'll put him in the middle as well. Ku Cullen, the best hound in the city. So for Ku Cullen, I'm thinking about Ku Cullen's background, and I'm thinking about how this man was able to take on the entire Red Branch army by himself. So beyond him being a warrior and him already having those athletic attributes a lot like Sasuke, we know that straight up from his past that he had to have some moves to duck and dodge everybody in his branch and they not lay a scratch on him. So if we're gonna talk about dancing, Ku is for sure gonna be one of the highest threats in the field that you can think of. Don't let his position in the story fool you. When he's not taking his own life, he's taking the hearts of people on the dance floor. Next we got Lazerit. Lazerit, as you know, is one of Ilya's maids. This is the one that has the lacking personality. So again, this puts you in a scenario where you would think, okay, she doesn't really have any emotion, so realistically, she wouldn't be one of the people to get on the dance floor. And you have a lot to learn, my friend. You have a lot to learn. As a matter of fact, I'm putting Lazerit as another high threat because realistically, we don't know what Lay is gonna do. She's very dangerous and capable of being the best at anything just simply because she doesn't care. I'm more so leaning to her being one of the people to walk out with the title. You would be very surprised. Next we got Medusa. Yes indeed, yes indeed. Again, one of those people on the cast that is very well known for being able to move. On the other hand, looking at her hobbies in her pastime, we know that she likes reading, she's a fan of cycling. Those are hobbies that don't really require that much movement. I mean, I guess you could say in the cycling, she's kind of moving her legs. So maybe Medusa would be a really great break dancer and we just don't know it yet. I would actually like to see Medusa come out to the floor with a boombox and just start break dancing out of nowhere. That would actually make my life. Not my day, my entire life. Just to be on the safe side, since it kind of leans back and forth, I'll put Medusa in the middle. I do think she has some potential though. Rin, or should I say Rin Tosaka? Rin Tosaka. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like Rin's position is a lot like Kirei. It depends on what's on the other side of the dance floor. I feel like Rin would go to those extents depending on the position that you put her in. But if we're talking about normally, well, we all know that she is the tsundere. I feel like she would be way too embarrassed to bust any moves. One of the only circumstances would have to be Shiro, possibly even her sister, being on the dance floor with her, and then maybe she'll loosen up and entertain the idea. So as far as Rin goes, I gotta put her in the middle. Oh, you know something else? What would really make her a threat? Bring Luvia. She never wants to lose to Luvia. If you bring Luvia to the dance floor, she's gonna beat everybody in there. I promise you, she's not letting it happen. Next up, we got Saber Alta, yet another character that's full of surprises. I mean, have you seen her drunk? I gotta put her in the same boat as Lazerit. There's no telling what Salter is gonna do, okay? Once she get full of that liquor, old English, you know, some gin, maybe some of that Henny, or maybe she just keeps it traditional and goes with the sake. Who knows? Immediately, she goes from mid-tier to an upper high threat, depending on the level of wasted she is. There's varying circumstances that can happen here. And while we're on Salter, might as well do Saber. Normally, she's not getting out there. The stoicism is large here. There would have to be some type of motivation, like many of the other people on this list, for her to even consider it. If you just so happen to put some food on the other side, particularly some hamburgers, this is an open and shut case. Saber goes home with the crown. It's crazy to think the difference between Saber being at the bottom and being at the top is a single hamburger. It just goes to show how dynamic these characters truly are. Next we got Sakura. I will keep it real. Sakura cannot be a threat whatsoever. Just because of her nature as a person, she's not getting on that floor. Even if you put something on the other side of the floor, just given how shy she is, that's more than likely gonna translate, and there's not really too much that we can pull from that. Even if she were to get out there, the moves would be forced and very awkward. It would more so just be her getting out there to say that she did it and less so to impress. Unfortunately, it just revolves with her character. gotta put her down in the bottom. We have Ilya's other maid, Sela. I do think that Sela would come to a dance-off competition if Ilya was there. However, I don't think she would be there dancing. She will more than likely be there hawking Ilya the entire time, telling her why or why she shouldn't be wasting her time with this competition when she should be preparing herself for anybody that's about to pop up. Either that or she would just be arguing with Lazerit in the process. But dancing, this is a low threat. I gotta put her at the bottom. Shinji, daily reminders to stop the Wakame abuse. We will be running this campaign until the end of fate. Thank you. Shinji is actually a very renowned person at the school. And as a very renowned person, I do think that if a dance popped off, he would definitely be one of the people that you would have to be worried about, because he's so obsessed with his own image that he couldn't fathom the idea of not being the one beating everybody at the competition and having his name in the lights. On the flip side, I've never seen Shinji dance other than, you know, him getting attacked by somebody. When he's getting attacked by somebody, this man can move, unlike anything you've ever seen before. But how would this turn out if he was forced to do this on his own? May not be as impressive. I'm gonna put Shinji in the middle. We can go either way, possibly high tier in a good scenario. We got Shiro. So as a lead character, we know that Shiro has protagonist EX, and this is how he has successfully built up his harem from Fate Stay Night all the way into Ataraxia. But how would this translate to the dance floor? Well, it probably wouldn't. This can't save him on the floor. Now, I will say that we know that he has that athleticism as a person that eventually becomes Emiya. We know that he has a certain level of moves outside of dancing. And as a person that likes to clean, he's not somebody that's necessarily too static, somebody that would just stand there and do completely nothing. But I would be lying if I said that Shiro would be a definitive threat. And even for Archer, I'll throw Archer in as well because I feel the same way. We'll put him in the middle. Is this subject to change depending on who he's going against? Yes. Because we know Shiro is like one of those people that get better with time. There's a good chance that he might dance better too. You just never know. Next we got Kazuki. So this is something that we kind of already covered with Medea. I think Kazuki has really good intentions at heart. He really does. But as an assassin, as somebody that's fiercely devoted to being the stoic person that he is, Kazuki is not moving a muscle, I'm gonna be honest with you. Which is crazy considering that he is slight enough to have some moves to be a competitor. I do think that Kazuki could put some people down while he's out there, but the question is, will he do it? And I don't think he would. Now, let's say Medea drags him out there with her. It's kind of like the only scenario. And even then, it would be the exact same case as Sakura, where yes, he would be doing moves, but they only would be just enough to satisfy Medea. He wouldn't actually be breaking it down of his own volition. So we gotta leave him low tier, unfortunately. We got the main dame, Taiga, fresh out the camp. If there's anybody that I fear at a dancing competition in Fate Stay Night, okay? Anybody at all. I fear nobody more than the energy that Taiga brings with her anywhere. Taiga might win just by showing up. I gotta be completely honest with you. That's just how she's coming as a character. I mean, I would be surprised if she just didn't win first, second, and third place off charisma alone. Easily one of the high tiers. You're gonna have a hard time outdoing her, especially when she gets in that tiger mode. Are you kidding me? Putting her on the list isn't even fair. Next up, we got Hassan. Hassan of the Cursed Arm. You remember what I said about Ku? We're kind of in the same scenario. Ku had a very hard time breaking it down with Hassan. Hassan has more than showed himself in Heaven's Field that he's not somebody to play with when it comes to busting moves. I mean, considering how much trouble that Ku had with him, and I think Ku could be one of the ones that would take it. So when it comes to Hassan, definitely got to put him up there. We've all seen what went down. He is for sure a high enough threat. sweat. And then last but not least, we have Zoken, the despicable. Would Zoken even show up to a dance competition? I feel like Zoken, he's off screen so much that he probably more than likely just be watching from the sidelines. But if he were to show up, I don't think Zoken is in a comfortable position where he can afford to dance, right? I mean, he barely has a body as is. I feel like he might break his vessel. Like, what if Zoken tries to get out there and break it down, and then a bunch of bugs just start flooding out of his legs? Nobody wants to see that, man. That's disgusting. We're trying to have a good time. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea. Maybe if it was Prime Zoken. If it was Prime Zoken, I'll be more up for the idea. But for Stay Night, I gotta put him at the bottom. This man walks around with the cane, for goodness sakes. If you knock that cane from under his hand, he might fall on the floor. Okay, we're not putting him on the dance floor. We're putting him in a nursing home. Obviously, I don't want to use things like Grand Carnival or Carnival Phantasm too much because everybody in that series is meant to be palatable. So they all pretty much have the same personality, even if they don't. So I don't think using things like the intro or whatever it may be for most circumstances would be accurate to them. That's why I only sprinkled in a few.